Let's discuss this with Owen Greene. He's a professor of international security and development at Bradford University. Professor, great to have you on this program. When I see these figures and these increased weapon sales, does it mean we're safer or the world's just more dangerous?
I'm afraid it means the world is a little more dangerous. One of the things about weapons sales is that they tend to be long-term investments. And so even though the COVID pandemic should have implied that perhaps governments should focus on other things, they don't. The history is that when it comes to national security, and particularly to do with weapons manufacture and demand, these tend to be longer-term trends. And so I'm afraid it reflects the fact of relatively high geostrategic tensions in the region, plus extremely high expenditure by some of the big states.
The US is the biggest seller. Saudi Arabia has generally been the biggest buyer. When we look at the sales that have been going up over the last 6 years and the war in Yemen that started 7 years ago, any big correlation there? I mean, ultimately, war is a business.
Well, I mean, it has a business element. That's absolutely right. I mean, there are correlations, but probably not in relation to the overall scale of weapons transfers, but some of the types. Of course, some of the weapons that Saudi and the members of the coalition in Saudi Arabia have been using in Yemen were aircraft and so on they bought several years ago, but there's a lot of use of bombs, ammunition, and what have you. So there's been an escalation as far as that's concerned. But we're also seeing extremely high expenditures by China. So that reflects not only their international sales, but also they're responsible for a very large percentage of the imports from Russia. They're taking over more and more of their own production, so therefore sales from Russia are going down. And similarly, India used to import a very large amount of weapons from Russia, but they're trying now to gradually decrease this by having more home production.
Why are we seeing this increase from China? And do you think that overall, going forward in the future, the sales of arms is just going to continue in this upward trend?
To take the last part first, I think there is unfortunately the risk that over the next few years, the amount of arms sales will increase because of increasing geostrategic tension. Of course, it's still lower than during the Cold War. And so it had a very big decline after the end of the Cold War, and then it started to be going up much more seriously in the last decade. In relation to why countries are spending so much, for example, China, and China is a rich country, therefore it can afford it, but it's also embarked on a much more assertive foreign policy, and it believes that it needs to spend a great deal on weapons in order to assert its own interests, particularly in its own region, in the South China Seas and in the Eastern Pacific.
Professor Owen Greene, great to get your insight into this. Thank you so much.